welcome back to the homestead. This week I had planned on showing you guys how we do the pig fence, and then we had a crazy amount of crisis happen within my extended family. Just people were in the hospital, other people were sick with things that they didn't know what it was. It was kind of really, it was stressful. Some other people's jobs were just really struggling, and so I totally went into just absolute help mode, doing sister support, and I find that to be really important. And so I did not end up filming any of us setting up the pig fence. Thankfully, we reset and set up pig fence multiple times, so I will show you guys our pig fence. But this week's main focus is the garden. I have gotten everything tilled up thanks to Joseph and our beautiful new tractor, and figuring out what to do. This is the strawberry patch, figuring out what to do with the strawberries and all the raised beds. And I suddenly realized I never made a garden plan. I just kind of planted things and I didn't make a plan. Usually I'd sit down during the winter time and I'd draw a beautiful plan. Well, that didn't happen because my plan did not happen. Now I'm kind of running on what and how. So my main focus this year for the garden is going to be the raised beds. But one thing I want to make sure and plant that's easy, that I talked to you guys about earlier, was potatoes. Now, I had initially said that I was going to plant my potatoes in these raised boxes right here. And that was my plan until I realized that I was going to get rid of my strawberry patch. I was not planning on getting rid of my strawberry patch this year. I was planning on growing it and expanding it. And when I went into it this spring and just really looking at it after all the rain we had, they need to go into the raised beds. Because I'm putting the strawberries in the raised beds, I don't want the potatoes in the raised beds. Because the strawberries are something permanent and I'd rather have those in the raised beds. So instead, we're going to plant the potatoes in the ground. Me and my 2 helpers. 3 if you count the one that's going in loops. Oh my word. That dog. Alrighty, Gigi? Plant the potatoes. You're crazy. So I have all the potatoes that I cut up in this bin. I let them dry out in my basement. It's not dry, but it's not damp, wet either down there. Since we're past all the major spring rain, we just have the regular spring rain. And so they dried out beautifully. They have growth on them, as you can see. And we're going to plant these 1 foot apart. And when I mean a foot apart, I mean a literal foot apart. I'll put one, put a foot down, put another one, put a foot down, and just go that way all along these rows in the ground. Steve and Charlie are going to go down the rows and they're going to pick up all of the green that is in the rows. Because Joseph just tilled this. There's chunks of grass in these rows, and they're just going to go down the rows here that I've made. They're going to just pick up the grass and put it in the pathways instead of in the ditches that I've made for the potatoes. Once that's all done, we'll start putting potatoes in, and I'll show you that process in a moment. Okay guys, it's just the big clumps. So you just go through and you see these big clumps, just get them out. See that big clump? We don't want that in there. Get it out. This big clump, we don't want that in there. We don't want this in there.
What's this?
Okay.
One more row left.
One more row left. Okay, now that's done. Let's get the potatoes in.
And there's no more big chunky clumps in this one. Get rid of that big clump. Mama, we did it.
Perfect.
Can I help you now?
It's literally that easy. Walk along your row, plant the potatoes, and have them in the ground. Now Charlie, you got to put it 1 foot between. So 1 foot is longer than that. 1 foot, see? There's a foot between them. So we'll cover these potatoes, and then when they sprout and they start peeking up, I'm going to pile more dirt, and then I'll pile more dirt and more dirt every time they peak up to a certain point in the summer. And then once they are fully hilled, that allows for those potatoes to really get in there and move and grow within that whole hilled area. We'll use some straw, we'll use some dirt. It'll just be whatever we end up having on hand to be able to use. And that'll help them grow and produce more potatoes than if I just set them in the ground and left them. And then 1 foot, and then you set it in, see? lots of them. Right there. And you're gonna put. I'm gonna set it right there. The wiper's not on right there.
Now this row is done. Now we need this row.
Now we'll start over on this row. Do what? Plant potatoes? Don't you want potatoes later on? Yeah, me too.
I'm being careful.
As you can see, Josie is filling the potatoes now. I'm getting that. We'll have to go through and pull all the clumps of grass out of there. But yeah, we'll go ahead, get the rest of these potatoes planted. We actually had more than I thought, which is great, because it means more food for the winter. Okay, so we're going through. I ended up having to cut in 2 more rows, and then we have 12 potatoes left. So we decided, let's go ahead and take one box and put potatoes in one box. So we're emptying out this box right here, and we're gonna put potatoes in it, and we're just gonna see how they do in the box. If the potatoes do well in the raised bed box here, it may be worth doing that in future years. This year, I just didn't have enough raised boxes to do it. So my garden is kind of an evolving thing where I have some raised beds and then some dirt, with my goal being eventually mostly raised beds with just putting like corn and stuff in rows. So anyway, we've gotten this in done, and I can show you what we've done. We've marked out with sticks, because we're super fancy, the beginnings and ends of each of these rows, and we will go through in the next couple days, make sure they're weed free, and just take it like a couple rows a day. They're short rows, so it's not hard to do. And then the reason we're not watering them in is because it's going to rain this afternoon, and depending on how much rain we get this afternoon will depend on if I decide to go ahead and bring the hose down here and water. But yeah, so this is it. This is how we plant seed potatoes. As far as the box goes, like I said, the kids are emptying out that right now while I finish up with the rows. They would rather empty the box than cover the potatoes. For the box, we're going to put 12 potatoes in it. It's about 4 feet by 3 feet. And so we'll just put them every foot, and we'll see how they grow. But yeah, anyway, thanks for coming along as we plant potatoes, and I show you kind of the beginnings of what my garden's going to be about. Until next time.